Once upon a time, a little boy named Ty encountered a wondrous machine known as the Nintendo 64. But unbeknownst to him, a hellish world awaited beneath the microchips and processors of this plastic machine. And my god, I'm dropping this act. This is a terrible bit. Doom 64 was the first time I became exposed to the legendary first-person shooter franchise, and despite the terrifying demons scaring the crap out of me, I was fascinated by it. Fascinated so much that I watched my mom play it late at night and hid under a laundry basket. However, as years have gone by, I have often dismissed Midway's take on the series as the one game that caused folks to view Doom as a horror franchise. But can I blame them? How could they not after Doom 3 and that terrible 2005 film with The Rock? And don't even at me about Annihilation. My god, Annihilation was so triggering. It was simply a perspective I could not agree with, and it made me a little resentful of the title. I've tried going back to play Doom 64, but something about it didn't encourage me to ever go back. Here I am 2 decades later, and I've played through every Doom game, except for this one. Can Doom 64 rise to the high expectations set by its predecessors and successors? Or is this another old game that has made an unnecessary return thanks to Doom Eternal? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. My name is Ty with MojoPlays, and this is my retro review of Doom 64. And of course, there's a frickin' plane. My god. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. And if you want to see what else I'm playing or suggest future videos, or just want to see me be salty on stuff happening in the games industry, be sure to follow me on Twitter at GhostWriterTyler. Do I even need to explain the story of Doom 64? It's virtually the same thing every game. You're a space marine on Mars, demons attack because the UAC doesn't know when to leave shit alone, and all hell has broken loose. Literally. People are dead, demons are running rampant, and there's so much viscera that it makes a ketchup stain want to guzzle bleach. The only difference this time is that there's a sweet intro to show just how screwed you are. Brings back so many memories. Wait, are we showing the N64 version? No, we need to get that footage out of there. I was originally going to play through Doom 64 on the Nintendo 64 console, but my god, it has not aged well, not in technical performance and mechanics anyways. The frame rate is likely to bug most, and lighting is about as useful as a matchstick while wandering through Disney World in complete darkness. Really, even with the brightness cranked to max, it's still near impossible to see. And the controls? Good lord! I could forgive Midway for working with what they had, but Elmo's letter adventure controls way better than this. No, if we're going to look at this in the best possible way and get my skeptical mouth to shut up, we desperately need an updated version. In comes Night Dive Studios, the J.J. Abrams of the games industry, and I mean that with the utmost respect. Hey, J.J. Abrams is a pretty good filmmaker. Night Dive has done excellent work bringing back classic games and refining them for modern platforms, while tweaking areas that didn't work in the original. Like everything else they've put out, Night Dive has gone and modernized the controls, improved resolution and optimization, and added a handful of options for players to play Doom the way they want to. Most importantly, environments now look vibrant. Lighting is more even and you can actually see where the hell you're going. This is clearly the way Doom 64 is meant to be played. Midway Games will always have my respect for their work on the original title, but there's just no way I can go back and play the game in its original state, especially not with something as awkward as the Nintendo 64 controller. From just the main menu alone, one can tell that Doom 64 is not going to be like the previous games, at least in terms of atmosphere and energy. Whereas the original Doom and its sequel Hell on Earth employed high energy and menacing tunes, Doom 64 goes for a more brooding approach. The game uses not one piece of music beyond the intro cutscene, instead opting for ambiance and sound effects to invoke fear. Most horror games do this simply for cheap jump scares, but Doom 64 manages to keep you in suspense long after the fights end. And it's all thanks to this choice of audio design. The white noise of UAC tech and distant noises in hell make the experience unsettling until the very end. The audio cues of assets spawning in and doors opening keep you cautious of turning corners. Was that a pack of ammo or a Hell Knight spawning in? Did I just open a door and unleash a swarm of lost souls upon myself? Once again, brilliant audio design tricks the player into scaring themselves. Maybe it was because of the outdated design of the original game's controls, but I'm a little ashamed that I didn't recognize Doom 64 for this the handful of times I tried playing it back in high school and college. Even my roommate took note of how disturbing the ambiance made the environment. Equally impressive is the level design. I'm not usually one for complexity, and that's partially because of how convoluted Hell on Earth became. Doom 64, on the other hand, keeps the intricacy at just the right amount. Levels do get a tad sizable later on in the game, but you can always pinpoint where you are without needing to look at the map. What makes things even more interesting is how rooms can have their layout alternated in some levels. Push a button and you'll go back 2 rooms beforehand, only to find that the entire arrangement is somewhat different. The original devs at Midway certainly understood how to make their levels flexible and puzzling. You know, that's actually a word I'd never thought could be associated with Doom. Puzzling. The franchise has had its fair share of puzzles in games old and new, but there's something about Doom 64's that has struck a chord with me. Perhaps it was the simple concepts like using keys in a specific order to unlock the exit. Or maybe it was the exploration as I tried to figure out what exactly that button did. Or maybe it was the simple fact that I had to solve these on my own with no help at all. Personally, I feel that the 2016 reboot and Eternal hold your hand too much when it comes to puzzles, and it's primarily because of its waypoint system and integration of platforming design. Doom 3, on the other hand, what even is this? You seriously call this a puzzle? Speaking of Doom 3, the approach to horror warrants a comparison between the two games here. Both Doom 3 and Doom 64 lean very heavily into the franchise's horror elements, but 64 manages to keep pace with its predecessor's frenetic action and doesn't let the gameplay suffer. Unfortunately, 3 puts less focus on action and more on story and cheap jump scares, resulting in a slow pace and equally slow gameplay. I can admire Doom 3 for its technical prowess, but between the two, 64 manages to incorporate horror best as it doesn't sacrifice gameplay for scares. Maybe it's because of my experience with the franchise, but I actually didn't have that hard of a time getting through Doom 64. For your reference, I played through the entire game on I Own Doom difficulty, which is the equivalent of ultraviolence difficulty in the other games. Enemies put up a pretty intense fight, and there were more than a few occasions where I emerged wondering how in the hell I managed to survive. And even without a few hidden items to power up the Unmaker, I still managed to beat the Mother Demon, even if I took a few rockets to the skull just as she died. Trophy popped, so it still counts. Still, I do have one problem in how the game gives you a hard time. Traps often felt like more of a cheap shot just to kill me off for giggles, and this is another reason why I chose to play through the newer iterations of Doom 64 rather than my original N64 copy. Unfortunately, I was someone who did not have a controller pack for my console, so I could never enjoy the game without the fear of losing all of my weapons upon death. Modern versions now carry a save feature, meaning I could save a game before entering a room that looked as though the floor could miraculously drop from beneath me. Still, as someone who had not experienced the game in its entirety, I didn't appreciate these cheap deaths, and it kinda turns me off as a newcomer. Despite all of that, I'm honestly shocked with how I've come around to loving Doom 64. It's made me feel remorseful for dismissing it as that one where the franchise gave up everything and went full horror. There's much more to love here than I originally realized, from the creatively intricate level design to the use of ambiance to keep a steady flow of tension and fear. The traps in Mother Demon may have been insufferable, but overall, Doom 64 is just as fantastic as its predecessors and the reboot series. Do I dare say it may actually be my favorite in the entire franchise now? Folks, before we end the video today, I would like to dedicate this video to my mom, who fostered my passion for games as she raised me, getting me stacks of games every Christmas, taking me to Blockbuster every week to rent the latest GameCube games, everything. For the past year, she's been fighting cancer, and I don't want to go into details, but it hasn't been an easy journey for her. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I once watched her play Doom 64 while hiding underneath a laundry basket. That is no lie. Of all the memories I've had from being a youngin', that is one thing that I remember very clearly, is hiding underneath a laundry basket as she's whooping demon ass in Doom 64. Seeing the demons on screen had terrified me so much that it actually stuck with me for like the rest of my life. But it wasn't terrifying like, oh, I'm traumatized for life terrifying, but just that morbid curiosity for the game. And I didn't get to see that game again until high school when she dug it up out of a closet and I finally got to play it for myself. And I became a Doom fan that day. I remember putting in that cartridge and being like, dang, this is terrifying, but I really got to look into this franchise more. 20-something years later, I'm a part of a great community of Doom fans, and I've even written a couple of Doom videos for Watch Mojo and MojoPlays. Basically, had it not been for my mom, who knows where I would be today. Anyways, all I ask is that you keep her in your thoughts, and just wish her the best. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you, and thank you for all that you've done for me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.